Hey everyone, I'm Corey Deacon, neuroscientist and functional medicine practitioner at Neurvana Health. I have another question regarding concussion that I wanted to talk about. And the question is, I used to be the biggest extrovert before my concussion, and now I can't handle going out anymore. Everything is so loud, bright, and it's hard to follow along. What can I do to enjoy my friends and family again? Okay, great question. So after head injury, the communication problems that happen in the brain make processing very difficult. Okay? There's an area deep down in our brain called the thalamus. And the thalamus is like the relay station of the brain. It's what turns off areas of the brain and allows other areas to turn on while we process. It's very, very important. It's just like a microprocessor in a computer. When that gets rattled, that doesn't always work well. So a lot of times what happens, if I'm trying to have a conversation with somebody, I'm hearing everything else because my thalamus isn't helping me filter properly. Okay. There'll usually be a metabolic problem that comes from this, sometimes related to thyroid as well, because it is a hormone that can be disrupted due to brain function problems. So now all of a sudden I can't filter it out. Same with light. It's like everything overwhelms the brain. I'm not tripping out the areas that I should be, and I'm not filtering out stimuli properly. So it's like everything is coming in all at once. It overwhelms the nervous system. It makes you feel tired. It makes you feel fatigued, feel frustrated, feel irritable, all the things that we feel when we feel tired. We get this sense of overwhelm. Some people get anxious to the point of even panic when they get into these situations. So it's very difficult to process what's coming in. And you're going to find the people you're trying to talk with are processing fine. So they're talking quickly and they're back and forth, and you can't keep up because you're not keeping up with the overload of all the stimuli that's coming in. So, I mean, that's a big portion of what happens after a head injury for some people. There's various reasons for this. Sometimes there's eye tracking problems as well, which is going to make the light sensitivity even worse, make dizziness worse, blurred vision can be a problem as well. So it feels like you can't keep engaged. Now, the other problem around socialization is trauma. Okay, a lot of times the emotional system gets primed when we have a head injury because it's considered a danger. As soon as we don't feel right in our body, our limbic system, which is our deep emotional system, okay, triggers. It says danger. And when it says danger over and over and over and over again to every stimuli that comes in, right, we get sometimes what we call a shutdown, or our body goes into what we call faint or freeze. And Dr. Stephen Porges talks about this in his research in the polyvagal theory, is we actually have a division of stress that's called the fight or flight, which most people are aware of. When we get stressed, we go into fight or flight. If we go in there for too long and we go into overwhelm, we get pushed into what we call a dorsal vagal reaction or a faint freeze. We just want to completely withdraw. We don't want to deal with life, right? Oftentimes people feel hopeless, they feel helpless, they feel depressed. They don't want to socialize it. That's the furthest part away from social engagement that there is. And the way that I describe it is if you're a gazelle on the Serengeti and a lion jumps out and starts chasing you, you go into flight, you run. Okay, and you run until you get caught by the lion, and then you go into fight, and you fight until you can't fight anymore, and then you go into play dead, faint or freeze or play dead, and you hope the lion leaves you alone enough so you can get away. Okay, if you get away, you go and you lay down in the bushes somewhere away from everybody else. You don't want to bring back the predators to the herd, so you stay off to the side. You don't engage socially, and you hope that you heal. So when we're in this state, we're actually in a healing state. We're in a wounded state. Our brain is purposefully disconnecting us so that we can heal. Okay? And there's argument here as to whether this is harmful or helpful. It is helpful. In the long term, it can be harmful. You do want to try to have social engagement and have physical activity to what is tolerable. Because there's actually an article that was published in the late 2000s called Stuck on the Bench. And it looked at all these different studies of people that were told, okay, don't do anything, just sit in a dark room until you feel better. And we actually saw that when people isolated themselves fully like that, it impaired their ability to get better. Okay, so there is a little bit of where you're going to have to force it a little bit, just to the point where you're not overdoing it, where you do want to socially engage, despite you might have a light sensitivity, you might have sound sensitivity, go somewhere quiet, like a quiet coffee shop to engage. If you're having light sensitivity, make sure you get a blue blocker, like the ones I use from Prisma. That's a very bothersome problem for people. These are things that you can do to again get some momentum to start feeling better. Okay. Now the other thing that you're going to find is your limbic system is going to hijack you a lot, and this is important to understand because the limbic system's whole job is to keep us safe. And if it's having a sensory experience, which is basically means something that it sees, hears, smells, tastes, or feels in our body is off, it mounts a danger response. It hijacks our brain, and then it makes us think and believe things that aren't necessarily true. So have you ever had those thoughts or beliefs or judgments that come up? That's the limbic system. So you want to be aware of those. And this is where mindfulness meditation can be very important and very helpful as well, is being aware of some of these thoughts coming up. And it's important to keep in mind that they're not yours. One that will happen if you are in the dorsal vagal state where you feel hopeless, helpless, and you want to withdraw is there's something called preparation for death. Okay? And preparation for death, again, imagine being a gazelle wounded on the Serengeti, right? You're laying there hoping you heal. There's no surgeons out there, right? What are you doing? Well, the brain is actually preparing for death. It's coming to grips with the fact that, okay, it'll be okay if I die, right? We confuse this for suicidal ideations. Okay, this is where the limbic system is actually just preparing us to be okay with death, and people get really scared, right? Why am I thinking this? Why am I thinking this? Well, it's actually a protection mechanism from the limbic system. It's not you, and it's not necessarily what you want to do. It's this protection mechanism. So that's another thing. And trauma therapists can work with you on this. EMDR is very helpful. Brain spotting is very helpful. And neurofeedback is very helpful for getting the brain regulating and getting it out of that state and more in the state of, okay, we're ready to engage with life again. Because sometimes the brain gets stuck there and it needs a little bit of help to get out. So one thing to keep in mind, again, if you guys are watching, you absolutely can get better and you absolutely will get better. Keep working, keep fighting, keep researching, and just keep doing what you're doing. Thanks so much for listening.